Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Unstoppable Dad Project. Thank you once again for joining me for another week. As always, just going to ask you all a few big favors. Make sure that you're subscribed on whatever podcast platform you're listening to this on. So, Apple, Spotify, Google, whatever that is. Please, please, please make sure you are subscribed and also give us a rating while you're there. By doing that and giving us a 5-star rating, it helps us get this out in front of more people. Once again, I've seen some amazing growth. I am forever grateful for the support that everyone gives me, the messages, the suggestions, everything that's been given to me since I have kicked off this podcast. I am forever grateful for, but I need your help to continue to grow it. So please make sure you're subscribed. Please make sure that you have given it a 5-star review, and also to share it around with anybody who you think might get some value from it. You can also share with them, and yourself can jump on, follow us on the socials. So at the Unstoppable Dad on Instagram and the Unstoppable Dad Project on Facebook. All right, this week I wanted to talk about learning. So there's a saying which I'm sure everyone's heard, which is you learn something new every day. And I guess you kind of do and you don't. And I was kind of reflecting on this week and for the last couple of weeks, because one of the things that I've noticed for myself, especially particularly over the last 12 months, which if you've listened to the podcast for a while, you know the last 12 months have been pretty up and down mentally for myself, just with all the major changes that I've had going on in my life. Pretty much a massive shift in identity after stepping away from running a gym and an in-person business after 11 years of doing it. There's been some really tough mental challenges that I've had to work through. And on reflection and on sitting down and looking at those times, I've always felt that I've been able to cope with stress when I'm learning something new. And I'm not talking about completely discarding the things that need to be done, but I just mean, even if it's just taking a deep dive on anything and learning just even one new thing for the day. And I'm not talking about a new way of doing something. Let's say I was using Excel the other day, right? And I worked out how to do something new from a formula point of view in a spreadsheet, which I'm sure everyone gets thrilled about that stuff. I was kind of thrilled about it, but that's just because it's going to make my life easier with a few other things that I need to do. But like, I'm not talking about that type of stuff. I'm actually talking about learning a new idea, a new philosophy, and even something in a way where it's challenging something that maybe has been set in your mind for maybe your whole life, maybe for the last 3, 4, 5 years, whatever the case might be. But really looking at, like, am I actually making an effort to learn something new today or this week? Because when I actually thought about it and I've sat down and I've reflected on, even the last 10 years, the times where I've felt probably more stuck and I feel like I'm in quicksand a little bit more have been those times where I haven't really been making an effort to learn. And by not making an effort to learn, I'm not making an effort to step outside my comfort zone. And one of the big things with this for me, when I look at it, is if I'm being challenged, then I feel like I'm going to be more accomplished. I actually feel less stressed and overwhelmed because I know I'm growing. And by knowing that I'm growing and knowing that I'm moving forward and knowing that I'm challenging myself, it allows me to be a little bit more objective over the big picture and not get caught up in the moment and not get caught up in maybe the trivial things that are happening, or even if something bad is going on, however you want to look at it or however you want to phrase bad. Let's just use that as a word for an example. But if something bad is going on, if I'm looking at learning something new and I'm trying to learn whatever it is, it allows me to be a little bit more objective on that particular situation, in the fact that something bad is happening. Generally, it's not going to last forever. There is going to come a time where we will come out the back end of it. If something good is happening, by learning, then I want to try and continue to learn and continue to grow so that I can enhance those good times, but also prolong those good times as well. Because when I look back at the times where I have felt most stressed and I have felt like I'm not getting anywhere, and I get that quicksand feeling where I feel like the more I struggle, the more I'm sinking into this particular negative situation that I'm in, a lot of it comes down to the fact that I don't feel like I was trying to stretch and challenge myself in that particular moment. I wasn't actively trying to learn something new every day. And by doing that, it meant that I couldn't really see a way out. And I was so caught in that particular moment that I just felt like I was stuck and there was no way of getting out. Because at the end of the day, if we're using like old sayings here and old, that you learn something new every day, then the other way to look at it is if you keep doing what you've been doing, you're always going to get that same result. Whereas if you take a different action, you're going to get a different result. Now, it's going to be, and I've spoken about this quite a lot over the last almost 2 years now on this podcast, but sometimes it's not going to be the result that you want. But again, back to the theme of today's podcast and today's show, by actively trying and learning something new every day, you're going to be able to change the action that you're taking in order to try and elicit a different result from the situation. And that's the big thing. That's the big thing with actively trying to learn something new every day. Like whether that, and when I'm trying to learn something new every day, not just taking in massive amounts of different information. Like one thing, and I have done an episode on this where I think you have to be careful about the amount of information you come in, especially when or you're taking in, especially when you're in a time of high stress. Because if you take in too much information, what that can lead to is number one, inaction, and information without action is not going to get you anywhere. In fact, in my experience, if you take in too much information and you don't take any action on it, it's almost that paralysis by overanalysis deal where you don't, because you don't take action in it, you actually get overwhelmed by the amount of stuff that you feel you've got to do because nothing's happening. And when nothing happens, it's turns into this, you're on this hamster wheel where all this information's coming in, and because you're not actually moving anywhere, you just keep spinning your wheels and not getting anywhere, and that just creates a feeling of overwhelm. It creates feelings of anger towards, for me, like when those feelings of anger come up, they're generally towards myself. And sometimes it's okay to be angry with yourself. Like sometimes you haven't done something you should have done, and you might need to be angry with yourself just to give yourself a kickstart to move forward. Sometimes you've got to be kind to yourself as well. It all depends on the situation and being a bit objective about that, and also knowing yourself and knowing your drivers. However, when you're taking in too much information and then you're not taking action in it, it's going to create all this other stuff on the peripheral, which is going to make everything seem super overwhelming. So when you're making that concerted effort to try and learn something new every day, one thing that I've started to do is actually whatever medium I'm using to learn from. So whether it be an audio book, whether it be a YouTube video, whether it be a course that I've invested in, regardless of what area of my life I'm trying to learn in, it might be a sport or a hobby. So something like jujitsu, it might be something like I'm trying to improve something from a business process. It might be a little bit of self-help or self-guidance or whatever the case might be. Or it might even just be something completely out of the ordinary that I want to learn something new on, but I'm actually taking the effort to put aside 30 minutes a day for myself where I'm actually sitting there with a notepad and a pen. Those of you that are watching on video, I'm holding up my podcast notepad, a notepad and a pen, and making a concerted effort that this time is for me to learn. This is not for me to do anything else. It's not listening to an audiobook while I'm on the bike or while I'm going for a walk. It is actually a concerted effort for me to try and learn something new today. And some days I will learn more than others, because whether it is the topic that is more conducive with where I'm at right now, but every day I do that I know that I actually feel better about where I'm at, because even if I have had the world's shittiest day where everything seems like it's falling down around me, I'm getting new information. I'm stretching myself. I'm challenging myself mentally, which is such an important part, I think, of growth. And it's such an important part of changing actions, habits, and behaviors that may actually help you move yourself away from the situation that you're in right now if you are not happy with that situation. Now, even if you are happy with the situation and you're happy with where you're at in the lot that you've got in life, I still think you still want to endeavor to try and learn something new all the time by getting new information and getting new data, challenging our place, challenging our beliefs. I think it's just part of human nature and part of things that we want to try and do to continue to grow. Because for me personally, there's a lot of things in life that I'm happy with. And I don't believe 100% that you have to want to change only when there's something wrong. I think you can want to change even when everything in life is going great, because the only constant is change, and there's going to be change in our external circumstances. And if we get too comfortable where we are, when those changes in our external circumstances happen, we may not be well equipped to actually deal with that. So even when going is good, that want to learn something new every day, I think is still really important. And the big thing for me, and the big takeaway, and the big thing I've learned over the last 12 months is actually putting the time aside to make a concerted effort to learn, not just trying to overconsume information day in, day out, which is something that I've been so guilty of in the past. I've thought a lot of times where it's like, I need to, if I can get all this information in at once, I'm going to find that little nugget that is just going to change everything. And to be honest, it's never worked. Never, ever. The only thing that it has created for me is more stress, more overwhelm around how and really feelings about like how inadequate I am as well too, like how much I don't know. But by looking at things like I'm making a concerted effort to spend 30 minutes learning, yes, it still highlights what I don't know, but then if I learn one or two things, I can look to take action on those things. I can discard what I don't feel is useful for me right now, put it on the back burner, and maybe like I might take action on it later on. But by taking that effort to really look at, all right, I'm going to spend this time to learn every day, to challenge myself, to stretch myself, to challenge my belief system so that, I'm not in this fixed mindset. And if anything else, I'm more understanding of people around me. And then the things that I can take action on, I can take action on them. And not having a million things to take action on is also a really important thing. So I think it's really important to give yourself the time and the space to learn every day. Because yes, I think we do learn something new every day. And sometimes we learn something new about ourselves. Sometimes we learn something new about the external world. But I think as anybody, it doesn't matter whether you're a dad, whether you're a mum, whether you're a young man, whether you're a young lady, whatever the case might be. But as you grow into adulthood, I think it's really important to continue to challenge yourself and try and learn every day. Not only just physically, and that's probably a topic for another podcast, but it still ties into this. Challenge yourself physically, but also challenge yourself mentally every day, because by wanting to continue to grow, I think that's one of the keys to living a long, fulfilled, and happy life. And on that, I'm going to leave you for the week. Hopefully, you got some value from that. Let me know. Send me a message. Let me know if you actually make a concerted effort to learn something new every day. Do you put some time aside, whether it's 10, 20, 30 minutes to actually sit down and do like some concerted learning on either a topic you're passionate about or something that you're not? If you do, send me a message. Let me know what it is. I'm really curious to know what people invest their time into learning. I don't think there's any right or wrong answer, but it's I think it's a really good practice, and it's something that I know for myself has really helped, because that mental challenge is always something that I'm seeking, And when I don't get enough of it, or I go on the other end of the spectrum and I get too much of it, it does make everything else in life seem a little bit overwhelming. So thanks for listening again. Take care. Make sure you're subscribed on the podcast platforms. Have a great week. I'll talk to you next week. Bye.